I just got a phone call from a hairdresser that I had booked in, like a really kind of fancy hairdresser that I had very ambitiously booked into before, a couple of weeks ago when I needed to scramble to get a haircut. And the place is called Stash, right? It's spelled Stache. And the guy just rang me up, and it was an unknown number, and I said, "Yeah, who's this?" And he said, "Hi, this is Stache." And I was like, "What?" And I was thinking telemarketer or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Sorry, who are you?" And he's like, "This is Stache." So apparently they're calling themselves Stache, and it's Stash. It's like the end of
They've named it after a thing and then chosen to mispronounce it, so no one knows what the fuck you're talking about.
It's like it's exactly like Zoolander kind of vibes in there as well.
Right.
It's actually a Stache. Is this a joke?
Is this guy like French? Is he like foreign? Is there any excuse?
Don't think so. He's got like long.
Wait, how do you know what he looks like?
Because Emma gets her hair cut at the same place.
Oh, I see.
He's got like long hair and, with a pencil thin moustache that twirls up and stuff. It's exactly what you think.
Okay.
With an accent like that. But,
Stache.
Great haircuts.
Yeah. So you had your haircut. We talked about this last episode. You had your haircut how long ago in real time? Your double haircut disaster?
Oh, maybe 4 weeks ago.
Okay. And now you're booked in for 2 weeks from now?
No, I had booked in 4 weeks ago, and this is how long it's taken them to call
I understand.
back.
When is your next appointment? I'm trying to work out the gap between when you had a haircut and when this one is.
Well, I said, wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm
not going to have another haircut.
Oh, you're not? Okay. So what's the point of this fucking story?
Cause Stache. Stache.
You said like, I had another haircut booked. I'm sorry for thinking you were going to go to that haircut when you tell the story that way.
I do not think I said that.
You did. Let's check the tapes.
I probably did, but fuck you.
Well, okay. So you're not even going to go enjoy Stache's full-on salon experience?
Maybe in a few months I will.
But you had to wait this long to get an appointment now.
Yeah, but what am I going to do? I mean, I could get a corrective. I actually said on the phone. Yeah, sorry, mate. I already got a shittier haircut. No laugh. He's like, okay, bye.
Wow. I mean, You might not be their clientele.
I'm definitely not.
What would you wear?
I would genuinely have to dress up. I would have to put effort into what I wore to the hairdresser. That's how trendy this place is.
Wow.
Too trendy for me.
Too trendy for you.
Much too trendy. Anyway, what's happening in your neck of the woods?
What's been happening on my end? I have been still working on Sherlock, the video game, predominantly. Doing a lot of interesting stuff for the story side of that. Getting to write a lot from scratch, which is really cool. So not just proofreading, but like actively ground up, which is an unexpectedly awesome opportunity.
Nice.
So I've been literally writing the end of the game, like literally the opening and the end, like all these key moments somehow fell into my lap. It's pretty awesome.
I can't believe you write stories for games.
I know.
That is the most Nick job ever.
I know.
That is the most Nick job ever.
It's so weird. But
You're a lucky boy.
I am. So that's good. Good grief. We have a less than 6 week, I think, wait until that show premieres in New Zealand. The release date is the 4th of January. The first season is all finished. It has been delivered to the network. There is a streaming page that you can go and you can go to TVNZ On Demand right now and just go view the page where the show will debut. There's promo art there. There's a little trailer there, which you can watch if you're in New Zealand. They're starting this rollout of the show. It's properly happening, which is
it's a product now.
It's a product. It exists.
That's awesome.
I'm really excited to A, see the final version myself, but B, have other people see it and hopefully like it. So yeah, we're getting quite close now, and it's just a matter of waiting.
Hell yeah. Well, can't wait for that.
Yeah.
It'll be like it'll be nice time to have that go out as well, because you got that like post Christmas, New Year's lazy malaise,
Yeah.
Good for watching.
So, and I mean, the total duration is probably around 90 minutes. So it is the kind of thing, like 6 episodes, 90 minutes. It is the kind of thing where you could just sit there on an afternoon and watch all the way through. And
I will.
Hopefully people do, yeah.
Looking forward to that.
So that's very cool. And, the actual other thing that I've been working on just this week, which is, again, very much in my wheelhouse, is I've been enlisted by a buddy to help out on another show that Whitebait, my old employer, makes called What Now. And they've got a strand coming up next year, which is an escape room, like a competitive reality show style escape room.
Wow.
So they'll be bringing like teams of 3 into this like professional TV set escape room, and like they'll compete to go through it as fast as they can. And they'll like air those across like multiple weeks of the show, and the fastest time will win a prize at the end of it all, that sort of thing.
So it's a reality kind of game show.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to be like 10-minute segments inside of What Now, like a bigger TV show. But so it's more of a strand than it is like a standalone. But it is format-wise going to be the kind of thing where we're seeing them do think sort of Survivor, like do a challenge, and then in the middle of it we cut away to the diary cam where they're like talking about the thing afterwards, and they're like, oh, I just couldn't work out how to open the door, and I was so angry when she pressed the button before she, and then intercut that with them trying to solve the puzzles. So my task, the reason I've been brought in to do it, is to like structure the narrative and the idea behind the room. Like, how every escape room's themed, and there's like a story, or there's documents and that kind of stuff. They brought me in to write this story and to plan all the puzzles. So I've spent the past 2 days like mentally designing a physical escape room layout, and like, okay, they start here and then they have to pass something through this room, and then they got to solve this puzzle, and they got to enter in this code, and when they work out that this plus this equals that, they can open that key, which will then get that, and then the padlock opens here, and that shoots the laser through there, and like how
do you even start to come up with that? Do you have to just ruminate for ages?
Yeah, it is actually genuinely really difficult.
You can't just be like, all right, well, I'm going to think about the escape room from 9 till 11. Like, it's not going to work like that, is it?
It's really tough, and it's tough for a whole bunch of reasons. It's tough because coming up with puzzles is hard. It's like if I said, like, go make a riddle, you have to go and seriously think about it, right? Even mathematical or logic forms, that you could like base something off of. You still have to go off and really do work on. But then there's all these other levels on top of it as well, which are like added considerations. It's a TV show, so you don't want just puzzles which are reading. You don't want people to be like flicking through pages of a book, because there's no way that we can cover that on screen. It's very hard to get that shot to see what they're looking at, to work out what they're thinking when they're reading, documents and that kind of thing. It's not very interesting TV. So everything has to be bigger or more visual or more physical. There's practical things where, like, when you're in an escape room, the typical design is like completely self-contained. But if you're filming it for TV, you got to have a lighting rig, you got to have cameras. So do you have holes in the wall? Do you have two-way mirrors? Do you have an open roof that you can look in on? Do you have GoPros inside? Like, how do we actually film the thing while maintaining the idea of it being in an enclosed space,
Wow.
It's and then the other consideration is a lot of the contestants will be young teens, so maybe between 10 to 14 year olds, so trying to work out what a puzzle is that they could understand, but how
do you do that?
I know. Also, then
you have to work out what a young teenager thinks.
Yeah, I mean, we do have
cool,
accessible audience, that we can speak to, and they'll, audition contestants who are into this kind of stuff. There might also be like a celebrity version, and so then if adults are going to do the same room, and it has to be the same room between every team, so it's fair. You can't mix up the puzzles each time. if there's a celebrity team, then adults are going through it. Is it going to be too easy for them, or is it going to be too hard for kids? Like all this kind of,
Yeah.
how long are these things going to take? If we're aiming for a half-hour room, is this too many puzzles, or is this not enough puzzles? If we send through a test team to give it a go and they do it fast, but they're actually faster than everyone else that we actually film doing it, then we might suddenly have a shoot day which goes 2 or 3 hours longer because everyone's going slower. Like, there's just so many.
Sounds like a fucking nightmare, dude.
So
I'm
many
stressed.
variables.
I am stressed just listening to all of that. My anxiety is actually going up.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good thing is I'm not doing it all by myself. And so I don't have to build it. I don't have to plan it. I don't have to source things. I don't have to find kids. I just have to write the puzzles and the story and then be there as they start to put it together and test it so that we can see how it works. So despite everything I just described, it's actually been really fun. It's just so mentally draining to try and think this shit up.
Yeah, and it sounds like it could definitely be fun working with a team, but it just sounds like on paper like a giant head fuck.
Yeah, it is. But then, like the end result though, like I think it could be really cool. Like you've done escape rooms, right? You've
very reluctantly, yes.
Very reluctantly. That's interesting.
Hated it. Can I tell you my experience with the escape room?
Yeah, please.
I've done 2 of them.
Okay.
Dragged, kicking, and screaming both times.
Okay,
Both times
sounds like
also
an attitude
extremely hungover.
Okay, there we go.
And you know,
wait, both times?
Both times hungover. And I remember one time I just walked out after the first room. I was like, first of all, feel a little claustrophobic, and second of all, don't want to do this. I hate the idea of doing like team puzzles things. Not to shit on your show, but it's just not for me. And then the second time, I got bored after 2 minutes, and they had a piano. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll just play the piano while the team, does the escape room. And then, what do you know? That
Piano
unlocked
was a
the fucking the fucking thing. So
yeah,
I mean, I didn't contribute to any further escape rooms after that. That was the one thing.
Was it the same group of people?
Like, I can't remember. But.
So the second time around, so if it was the same group of people, then they would have been aware that last time you fucking walked out. So either they were like, maybe this time he'll get it, or they had not been privy to that information and were going to be freshly disappointed by the fact that you did not contribute at all once you got in there.
Yeah, I think you probably expect me to not be into that kind of thing. I mean, I don't like doing games. I don't like games night. I hate the idea of games night, but weirdly enough, I love poker. So, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it seems self-contradictory.
Yeah, but poker, you can win money. If I could win money in this thing, I'd be the most enthusiastic one.
Well,
you got to put a dollar bill at the end of it.
Come and compete in our TV show and win a prize at the end.
I'm there, baby.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Welcome to Deep Forward, everybody. Hey, how you going? Good to see you. I mean, you can't see us, but maybe we can see you. No, that still doesn't work. Anyway, this is a podcast, and we talk about things on it. Sitting through the internet with me, my friend Michael. Hey, say some words.
Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop.
Didn't say any words. I just don't know how bad you are at this.
Said 4 words.
Yeah. And my name's Nick. Hi. Hey, Nick. Hi.
What a fortnight, baby.
What a fortnight.
We're like the world, America. Let's just say America. I mean, what are they doing? What are the Republicans fucking doing, Nick?
Is it a rhetorical, or were you going to answer the question yourself? Or
I was hoping you would answer my rhetorical question.
Okay, that seems presumptive. What are the Republicans doing? Well, for the past 2 weeks, it has really all been still about Trump, though, hasn't it? It has been Trump and his ego, despite a clear winner. And I would like to say that we did call it 2 weeks ago on our podcast. It had not been as super confirmed as it is now super confirmed, but we had said...
I believed I called it a year ago when there was no Democratic nominee yet.
You did.
Seinfeld.
Just completely, you just completely.
No, that's not Seinfeld. Oh, that's a good Seinfeld bass.
Yeah,
What were we talking about?
I can't remember.
All right, so my favorite's Kramer.
It's because you like walking into things.
Okay, we got this.
Okay.
We're professionals.
Yeah, can you tell that my brain's a
Republicans-
little bit mushy?
Why? What have you been doing?
Oh, for fuck's sake! Okay, the Republican Party has been kowtowing to Trump, as I think where we were going with this. Trump has been the one whose ego has not allowed him to accept a loss, and so he has just completely gone off the rails, right? His approach to this has not been... I don't know why, to be honest, any of us thought that he might actually just concede defeat, but he very much hasn't. Lawsuits all over the place. I think he's currently 1 for 26. Not doing so well in the legal system because there is no evidence of voter fraud, and yet he keeps saying he won.
Yes. One thing that's a few people have pointed out lately is that there's a big difference between what you can claim on Twitter and what can actually happen in the courts, because they've had a few cases. By the way, can we just say how funny was the Four Seasons total landscaping saga? Oh my god!
It was
You couldn't write that better. You couldn't write that better, and it would be unbelievable. If you did. But yeah, there's a big difference between Trump claiming voter fraud on Twitter and then trying to get his lawyers to actually make the case in court, which they have clearly just not been able to do because they don't have a case. And they even had that. Well, I think it was maybe Michigan, where they were claiming that they were going in claiming that they didn't have people on their behalf in the voting centers.
The ballot counting rooms, yeah.
In the ballot counting rooms, keeping an eye on things.
I think it was Pennsylvania, yeah.
Right. And then when they brought it to court, they were asked if they didn't have any representatives in there, and they said, and I quote, there was a non-zero number in there.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah.
Were
there any people representing the Trump campaign in the room? There were a non-zero number of people in the room. So there were people, yes.
Yeah, and then the judge said, so what's the problem here?
Yeah.
I mean, just poetry, man.
Yeah,
Poetry.
beautiful. It is, at the same time as being absurd, it is also, like, so damaging.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it is so damaging. The fact that he's continuing to assert this stuff, which is just, again, this is something that we've known about him forever. This sort of, by force of will, going to shape and bend reality around him so that it is the way that he wants it. And to now reach that point where he continues to insist that he won, where he continues to insist that there was voter fraud, even though it's, again, so far detached from actual reality. Even Republican governors and, heads of each states are saying, no, there's the votes are right. Even if you do a recount, you can't get enough votes back to change this. All this stuff. And yet, because of this sort of bubble of the right-wing media, there are millions and millions of people just completely enthralled by this guy who think the election was stolen. Like, the democratic implications of this can't really be understated. It is properly going to ruin the trust in the electoral system.
Absolutely. And the real shame for me has been the way that Republican senators and officials have not come out and in opposition to this. And we've known that a whole bunch of them are fucking pussies already. We've always known that. They're fucking pussies. But they're coming out and saying, they're saying to journalists anonymously, they're saying, he'll go out, he'll leave. Just, this is just how we have to,
just let him come to terms with it.
I'm like, we're talking about the president of the United States, and we're talking about just like placating a guy, like like not even exaggerating, like a child.
Yeah.
Just don't worry, he'll tire out, he'll leave eventually.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what they're doing. This is
Yeah.
the highest ranking official in the free world. I mean, what are we doing? Like these Republican senators that are just doing this. I mean, you know that these guys are just doing it. They're career politicians. They just want to be on the right. They want to be on the good side of the most powerful person, and they just absolutely don't have the country's best interest at heart. And that's the damaging thing, as you said, and that's the shameful thing. They clearly and so obviously right now, as if it wasn't before, they do not have America's best interest at heart. And if you don't have your country's best interest at heart as a politician, you're a scumbag.
Yeah, well said. The kind of craziness in which you describe that, like you're treating Trump like a child. It's like forcing him to like sit at the dinner table until he finishes his vegetables, right? Like you don't get to go and have fun until you accept this thing. He's absolutely just throwing a temper tantrum. The scary thing of it all is that he's still in office for another 2 months. So he has this like ability to literally burn the house down. So it's just a smoldering wreck. And
well, he can pardon himself, can't he?
I don't think that's legally true. I think that's not within his realms.
I'd want to check that because I definitely heard that he can pardon himself if he wanted to, but no president has ever done that before.
Yeah, I saw talk of it, but I think I also saw coverage saying that it was legally, not an outcome that would. It just doesn't stand up to any sort of objective scrutiny. The idea that a president can pardon himself, because there's meant to be some degree of, objective justice in the thing. It wouldn't agree with, constitutional principles, I don't think. But that doesn't, discount the kind of damage that he could do by pardoning others, which is crazy. But also, there was an article today in CNN, and this is fucking crazy. Like, this is how legitimately crazy it is. In any other context, again, just like everything with Trump, in any other context, any one of these little stories would be the center of a months-long scandal. But who knows if this will even go anywhere. There was a CNN article saying that the Trump White House office campaign approach is literally going to be a vindictive scorched earth policy, and that multiple sources confirmed this, that they have outwardly said that they're going to blow up international foreign policies and fuck with other countries, pull, people out of Afghanistan and stuff, and hope that it all goes to shit, or impose sanctions on things so that Biden inherits an international crisis and looks bad. Like, legitimately, that has been corroborated CNN reporting, that the Trump White House is literally just burning the fucking house down.
Jesus.
In a temper tantrum. And
I can see it happening.
You can see it happening. Like, he fired the head of the electoral security, department or whatever, because he came out and attested that it was the most secure election that America's ever had. And this guy was a non-partisan, very well respected figure in the security world who had
By the
done
way,
incredible
I just love
things.
that this was the most secure election in history.
Yeah.
And as every most recent election ought to be, or should be, or is, just by virtue of the technology.
Yeah. It is kind of, it is a little bit reminiscent of a marketing slogan. Like, every time Apple comes out onto stage each year and they says, this is the iPhone 12 and it's the best iPhone we've ever made. It's like, well, yeah, because A, if it's not, you're not going to say, actually, last year's was better. Just go pick up an 11. But B, if you're not making it better, then what are you doing? Like, it's the same kind of thing. But that's not to dismiss the actual work that the security complex put into preventing, Russian interference and that kind of stuff this time around. But this guy got fired by Trump because he came out and said this was a perfectly secure election with no indications of fraud. And Trump was like, okay, fuck off.
Get out of here, mate.
Get out of here.
Yeah, God. What are you drinking?
I've got a golden lager, a Monteith's golden lager.
Nice. Have you been drinking much?
No, not today specifically, and not midweek, but over the weekends, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's getting into that silly season.
Sure.
Why do you ask?
Just because I've been thinking about my own drinking habits lately.
Right.
And over lockdown, they definitely. I mean, I say this now, looking back, being working 9 to 5 and being tired at 9 p.m. every day, my drinking habits were pretty, well, not extreme. Well, maybe it was getting a little bit dangerous. Well, not dangerous. I don't know. I just keep
Excessive?
saying shit and backtracking. Yeah, it was definitely excessive.
I hit someone with my car. Well, not with my car. It was someone else's car. Well, it was a motorcycle. I stole someone's motorcycle. Stole someone's motorcycle and hit them with
someone else's motorcycle. I don't know who it was. I was too drunk.
I think it was a person.
I hit someone with someone's motorcycle. That's all I know. It was a big night.
To be honest, I don't know if it was a person. I just heard a noise and I went flying.
I
got that right as you drank.
I did so good to keep that.
You did so well. You kept that in. You kept that in your mouth. You breathe through your nose.
What were we talking about?
So
Trump,
I was going to say
Republican
something.
Party.
Oh, we were talking about your drinking, and then there was something before that I was going to talk about. But just in terms of the drinking, there was a period earlier this year where you'd basically cut it out completely, or end of last year where you'd really got rid of quite a lot of it, and was sleeping a lot better and that kind of thing. To go from that into the lockdown period, I don't think you should feel particularly bad about starting to drink more or anything like that. It's obviously a very reasonable and common coping mechanism. But I think as you've identified now that you're in that kind of full-on 9 to 5, like brain and body moving all day kind of schedule, that you probably don't need anything more at the end of the night to really unwind beyond, a glass of wine or two.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you are mentally exhausted and physically exhausted at the end of the day, drinking will only accelerate that process until you need to sleep. So it's just not. You can't be an alcoholic, with when you're busy. I mean,
that's what the science says. Yeah,
and that's my quote for the day.
Michael is a low-functioning alcoholic. So some others out there are able to juggle, a busy, home life, work schedule, and obsessive drinking. But lucky for Michael, he's more of like a one-track guy, one-track mind, and struggles to multitask at the best of times. Oh yeah, so we come off the back of Trump. Do you have anything more about Trump that you want to say? Because I was about to move into vaccine territory. COVID, Adelaide vaccine.
Oh yeah, I just have a question. So what do you think is going through Trump's head right now? Like, what do you think? What do you think he's thinking, and how do you think this plays out from here?
Well, there have been some reports or suggestions that Trump does know he's lost, but that he feels like he needs to fight this on behalf of the base, so that the base A doesn't turn on him, because the last thing that he wants to do is be subject to the nuttos for, once he leaves office, or people who feel like angry and betrayed that he didn't fight for them, that kind of thing. But also B as potentially a form of platform security, where okay, he's going to leave the office, but maybe he wants to launch merchandise or get a website going or pick up his, Trump Fox show, or something kind of in that media space afterwards, because he's not going to just do nothing, right?
Yep.
So something
So do you think
along
if he
these
just,
lines.
if he just thinks he thinks if he sows enough doubt, it will make it, if he can convince a significant percentage of his base to believe that, yeah, maybe the election was fraudulent, that in their eyes, at least, he's not a loser.
Yeah.
And that he was cheated out.
Yeah. And
But
so
do you
then
think he actually believes that stuff?
I think not.
Really?
I feel like he's a showman, right? Like, ultimately, the only thing that he's ever been really good at is
Media.
communications and media. And communications is generous, but it is true. Like, he can sell a message and hold a crowd.
Yeah.
And I think he just has that, finger in the air. He knows which way the wind's blowing, and he can just conduct the mixing metaphors, conduct the orchestra, right? And I feel like he knows by now that he lost. The number of ways that the legal arguments have failed, the shitty performance of Rudy Giuliani in federal court, or in front of Total Landscaping, all of these various facets. Even Fox News called this election for Biden, all of these various platforms have informed him. I think he probably knows. The thing is that he can't be seen to just give in.
Down. Yeah.
So he'll exit the office, he'll kick and scream on the way out, he'll claim that he's such a nice guy for doing it, because even though that we know there's so many like electoral problems or whatever, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'll run again in 2024 or some shit, He'll do this as the face-saving thing, but I don't think he genuinely believes it. I don't think he genuinely believes it.
That's a good point, and now that you've said it like that, he'll the way that he'll go out will be, you know what, you guys have cheated me, but I'll do it for the country, even though you've cheated me. I mean, that's the only way he can go out. Yeah,
the crooked Democrats stole this election, blah blah blah. I mean, here's the flip side. Here's the flip side that I realized as I was talking. I think pathologically, we know Donald Trump is a narcissist. We know that he feels like he's always right. Maybe there is still an argument to be made that he just, mentally cannot process the idea that he lost. If he didn't lose, like, he could not have just legitimately lost, because he's the center of the world and he's popular and his fans love and scream for him. Maybe if this is what people are saying, then it has to have been fraud, right? Like, it might. I could see an argument that it is still something he hasn't accepted.
I mean, look at his career as a businessman. Like, he's had failures before. How has he handled those?
His entire life is a failure.
He's had bankrupt casinos. He's had bankrupt buildings. I mean, how has he handled that? You ask him about that. You go back. I mean, I don't know if you do this or anyone else does this, but I go back through, watch old interviews with Trump in 1995 with David Letterman and things like that. I mean, it's fascinating to watch that guy, knowing who he grew into, 25 years after the fact. And David Letterman, such a good interview, and we'll say, hey, you're bankrupt, you don't have that much money. He says this. And Trump will be like, no, I have plenty of money, they're all doing fantastic. He's never once admitted failure or loss, even though he has a string of failures. So he's not going to do it here. But yeah, I agree with your projection that how he'll leave the office, and I can't wait for that day, January 20. I'm going to watch that live. I'm going to stay up for it.
Is it January 20?
Yeah. Well, that's when Joe Biden gets sworn in.
Right. The interesting thing about those old interviews, I haven't gone back with the amount of depth that you have, I suspect, but 25 year ago Trump, he can string a sentence together. He's actually quite charming and quite literate. It is shocking to see the like degradation in his speech, in his thought patterns. It is
Totally
noticeable.
I mean, he's still a douche. He's just always been a douchebag.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the literal sense. Like, he is just a bit of a loser as much as he goes on about winning. He's always been kind of a loser. He's always kind of been out. I mean, he's never had the cool group of society, which would be celebrities. No one's backed him. They've all made fun of him.
He's not pretty. He's not
actually
successful. He's not like popular. He's just had
is successful. Well, sure. I mean, he is successful and he does have money, but he's just never been in with the group. He's always been the outsider, and I feel like he knows that. That's why he gets fucking, what's his name, Lil Pump or whatever, Lil Wayne, to come up like he's so like jazzed about getting like a black rabbit that he's never heard of that likes him. I mean, he's never been a cool guy. He's a fucking loser, man. And he was a loser back then. He was a loser when he was 45. He's the loser now.
Well, look, not everything in life is daddy issues, but it really feels like this is daddy issues, right? Like,
massive.
We know from, like, again, interviews and historical record that his dad really didn't fucking like him.
Fucked him up.
And fucked
really
him up.
Fucked him up. Yeah,
and he's never been able to get past it.
Maybe in a few years when the world has some distance from this horrendous individual, we might start to get movies and books that will allow us to have a little empathy for this man and start to see him, as maybe try to understand who he is and how he came to be such a prick.
I find that this is hyperbole. I'm going to say it. I know it. I'm asterisk at the top. I know it's hyperbole. I know this is not a fair comparison. But here we go. It's a little bit like showing the sensitive upbringing of Hitler, right? In a movie. And I just mean asking people who've been manifestly like worsened, tortured, traumatized, infected, made homeless, made redundant, all of the various atrocities that American, civilians have gone through in this 4-year term. Making a movie in which you're meant to empathize with this person and be like, hey, but his dad was a little bit mean. I'm not sure. I can't picture the filmic treatment that would be successful in that way, because I think he's just so loathsome. And also, even if he has like dad problems, right? There's still so much in his life which he had, so many opportunities, so many millions of dollars, so many buildings and skyscrapers and failures that just get written off, and banks which lend him money even though he's bankrupt, all these kind of things, and he still fucks it up over and over again. I think if you are even, genuinely going into a film like that where you want to sort of, see, you're open to the idea of like following this man's somewhat biographical journey, I think it's going to be really hard to empathize with a guy who has all this stuff and is still such a shithead, still so entitled, still so cruel to people, right? If you're watching a spoiled millionaire, it's not going to be appealing. I'm just not sure what the angle is to do a biopic about Trump.
Well, I think you kind of explained it. It's like it's not immediately, it doesn't immediately induce sympathy, but it's this, he's kind of a lonely guy. I mean, there's no love between his wife, clearly, or any of his wives. I mean, he's a lonely, sad man surrounded by gold. I mean, I'm not saying that we should excuse the terrible actions he does, but I think it's interesting, and it's kind of it'd be interesting, I think, personally, to see how Hitler became Hitler. Hitler wasn't always Hitler. He was a little boy once. He was a teenager, and then he was a man in his early 20s. Like, I find that interesting, and I want to understand those people. It's kind of like the Joker.
I was just about to say it. I was waiting for you to finish. I was like, do you approach this like the Joker? Yeah.
I think so. I think that's maybe where you go with that, and I think it's fascinating. He's a fascinating man.
So, like, the Joker movie, I mean, you and I, I think we both liked. I think you really liked from memory. But the approach to that film is show a disturbed man who does unspeakable things, but try and earn some sympathy along the way by showing how life did him wrong. There is a model there that you could apply to a Trump film. I still feel like because it's in the real world and because it's so current, I'm just not sure what appetite will be there. There was the Gleason, Donald Gleason,
the Comey role.
He played Trump, right? Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was crap, but Gleason was good. It was utter crap though.
Yeah, I didn't watch, but I was curious as to, like, is the performance? Does he do the voice? Is he like inhabiting that character like a satire?
The reason why that performance was so good in such a shit show, in my opinion, was that Gleason doesn't do a caricature of him. He kind of does an imitation, and we haven't really seen that. And I think we'll get a few more, like, over the years. There's going to be movies and there's going to be shows about it. Well, maybe there's not. I mean, it's hard to kind of... I mean, you don't really see it with Barack Obama or anything, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. Trump is so larger than life, it's kind of hard to imagine there not being any movies made.
I mean, it's true. You could sort of see in like a 10 or 15 year on period, you could get something like Vice, where they tackle a grandiose figure with a grandiose style. I didn't particularly like Vice as a movie, but that performance, Vice, with the Adam McKay film about
Christian Bale, yeah,
with Dick Christian Bale about Dick Cheney. That's a very big sort of adaptation of a current events. Maybe that's the way to tackle it. I don't know. Yeah,
actually you're right. And there was also Oliver Stone's W. Who did Josh Brolin did.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of style of movie I could definitely see.
Interesting there hasn't been an Obama one. Maybe it's just too soon.
They don't want to make fun of Obama. Obama's too cool to make fun of.
But that's the thing. You don't have to do it as like a critique, though, do you? You could just do a biopic. You know, you could do young Obama years, right? And then end up sort of as he takes the office, something like that. Like, you could set it in that period.
They did do a show on Obama, but it was just not that good.
Really?
I was watching... Obama did a 60... it was kind of midday movie style, but I was just watching Barack's 60 Minutes interview, and he's just so... Like, just the way... He just walks in. He walks into the interview. It's so interesting seeing Barack hold himself 4 years after office... after we've had 4 years with Trump in office. And Barack without a tie is still has more presidential capacity in his pinky finger than Trump does.
Yeah.
And he's just fucking cool. He walks in, he's like, elbow bump. You know, he's just like,
Did you see his fucking 3-pointer? Did you see that clip? He's like at a basketball ring. He's rallying for Biden. Someone like bounce passes Barack a basketball. Barack just casually grabs it, shoots from the three-throw line, three-point line, I should say, and fucking swish, and then he just like mic drops, walks away. That's how you do it.
Lifts his mask down.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
And
you know what I loved about that video, apart from how cool it was that it was so like perfectly representative of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's just a poor man's Obama at best.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden's just like sitting there at the back, and Obama's still holding like...
He's got the attention of the room, right?
He's like the alpha there. He's like, he's the guy, and Joe Biden's like, whoa, that was cool. I'll be right there, Barack. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, Yeah,
It
it's
is
just the coolest.
It's just like instant, viral smash. It was honestly a thing where I watched it and I was like, I was not sure that it was like current because he just looked like, I was like, was this something that had happened 4 years ago and people were just reminiscing? It's like, oh no, this happened this morning. This was just a thing that he just did now. Fuck.
So good. What a great president.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
so vaccines. Oh, you don't want to do vaccines?
yeah, I do. Well, I was going to say the other sort of thing which happened over the past couple of weeks is we should send some love to Adelaide, which is, as we record, are currently in absolute lockdown, quite an aggressive, hard lockdown, because there had been 34 cases that had crept out of a Medi hotel in Adelaide.
34 now.
I think it's 34. I don't think there are actually any new cases today, which is quite encouraging.
No.
But I think it was 34. So that city, in fact, the entire state is now in even a more aggressive lockdown than New Zealand did.
Can't even exercise.
You cannot leave the house even to exercise or walk around your block. You are literally housebound, other than to go to supermarkets or to pharmacies. There are a few, obvious exceptions for if you need mental health, if you need to get out of a domestic abuse situation, if you need to go to the booze shop, all these things are valid. But cannot go for walks, cannot go to park, cannot leave the house. That is an intense 6 days, and they've defined it as 6 days, and then after that it drops down and some of that eases up. But
they're saying that there's a different strain in South Australia.
Yeah, I found that interesting as well.
That a shorter incubation period and
a real
more
rapid
contagious or something.
Yeah, a real rapid 3-day sort of window, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? That you can have. Well, I guess we have known that there are different strains of coronavirus, but yeah.
Yeah,
I've always thought of it as the same thing.
Yeah. But it's interesting that it's like already mutated. Like, isn't that kind of scary? I wonder what the total sum, of different variants that we know of now. It's probably dozens.
If we get... before I ask that, have you spoken to your folks and how are they dealing with it?
Yeah, they're all right. They were all stocked and prepared. They're fairly homebody types anyway. Dad had been traveling for work, so that's been cancelled. The one which is still up in the air is that he is actually waiting on a hip replacement, some elective surgery. He's been hobbling in pain for the past few weeks, just waiting for this surgery date, which is coming up. Elective surgeries have been cancelled for the foreseeable future. So we are hoping that this 6-day circuit breaker, as they're calling it, will stop the coronavirus in its tracks, and that by the time that date is scheduled, he will be able to go in and have that surgery. Because if it gets pushed back, he's not going to be very comfortable.
Well, how does that elective if he's in pain?
Well, I guess that it's not
not emergency.
Yeah, he's not bleeding, and he's.
It's a little nasty to call elective at that point.
You want to walk? You feel like you deserve to walk. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
So you're choosing.
You're choosing to walk.
So you're choosing to do this. Okay.
It seems like a lifestyle choice to me. Have you considered just not moving?
Yeah, that's a bit rich, isn't it?
Yeah. So
also 6 days seems pretty short.
Yes, but here's the thing: if it's a 3-day cycle, that's 2 waves of it, right?
Wait, 3-day cycle?
3 days to show infectiousness. That's why they're saying it's such a fast-acting thing. I think they're saying that this strain becomes visible quicker.
So is that good?
Well, I don't think it's either good or bad. It just means this is coloured the way that they're changing these procedures. So I think they're doing 6 days. See how that goes. And this is at the crazy intense where you can't even leave the house, right? One person from your household every day can go out to one of 2 places, basically.
Yeah.
Beyond that 6 days, there'll be 8 days where it's slightly looser. So that combined is 2 weeks. And I think that second half, maybe they'll say, now you can go for walks outside. But it'll still be full lockdown. So across that 2-week period, I think they would expect to see most of those symptomatic cases appear, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been making fun of my dad. You've been to my folks' home and seen the pantry. It's, there's 50 jars of pasta sauce.
My dad's the
50
exact same.
toilet rolls.
Yeah.
Is he?
Absolutely. My dad, and I'm not exaggerating, as we speak, probably has, I want to say, a good 30 cans of coconut milk or coconut cream in his pantry.
Well, that's useful, though. But has he been doing this pre-lockdown?
He's done this for the entirety of my life.
All right. So we're in the same boat. Like, we've
Yeah.
been making fun of my dad for doing this for years, and finally, we're just like, all right,
You finally
He's been
paid off.
stockpiling. He's been stockpiling without actually, taking from others or,
Yeah.
emptying the shelves for himself.
Yeah.
He's just been doing it gradually.
Yeah. Some
Which
of the
is the way
cans
to
are from
do it.
1985, but I think they're still probably good.
Oh, the tunas, don't touch the tuna. We have that on the door when you come into my
Now
house.
I understand.
Whatever you do, don't eat the tuna.
Yeah. Sending our love to Adelaide. It's going to be tough. We're here for you. Now Melbourne gets a chance to show those South Australians how to do it and show a bit of empathy in return. The interesting news coming out of America is that sort of globally, I suppose, is that a couple of the big pharmaceutical companies have come out with what seem to be pretty impressively effective vaccines.
95%.
95%, both Pfizer
That's both
and
Moderna?
Yeah, I think have said 95% now, that's a pretty impressive feat. It's a very impressive feat.
So maybe you can clear this up for me. Are we looking to get 100%? Or no vaccine is 100%?
I don't know the answer to that. I would guess
When do
no
they call
vaccine
it?
is 100%. I think they call it when they're confident that it's safe and mostly effective. I would imagine that these 95% effective vaccines are going into production. I think that they are going to call that good enough, assuming it's safe enough.
Right. And now, are you someone who will, be willing to take the vaccine when it comes?
Well, I don't know that it'll really be up to me to make that choice. You're sort of asking that from a what's our safety consideration question kind of perspective.
Well, I think the trepidation that people have right now is that they might be slightly distrustful of a vaccine that has so clearly been rushed. Well, at least perception-wise has been rushed through. So you don't have the luxury of knowing that a vaccine has been tested over, a decade or 5 years.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was reading an article. In fact, I can't remember if it was an article or it was in a series of tweets, but someone in the epidemiology field or the vaccination field was talking about how those concerns should actually be put to rest, because this 10-year figure, it is not 10 years of being in clinical tests. That 10-year figure encompasses a whole amount of other work. Things like filling out applications, seeking grant money, doing the paperwork, finding a lab, designing these things with limited resources. All of that, like the bulk of that time is admin and bureaucracy and systemic kind of focus and production issue sort of things. Finding a factory to manufacture it, working out how to produce it. The amazing achievement of these vaccines is actually a testament to the things that we can get done with a global focus and infinite resources. So if your question is not, okay, who am I going to apply to get this grant money? If the US government says, here's $1 billion, go make a vaccine, then that's, 3 years out of this process gone. If where are we going to produce this? Who's going to back us for it? Oh, well, there's, 7 international pharmacological giants ready to hit play on all of their factories around the globe. Okay, well then we don't have to worry about that either. If the only thing that you're trying to do is find a chemical combination which produces this reaction in the body to prevent against the disease, and the entirety of the international vaccination community is unified in this goal. They're all working on this one disease right now in a shared scientific endeavor. It's like everyone deciding we're all going to go to the moon, right?
Right.
Like that combined international effort and spirit of coordination between scientists the world over, plus infinite resources, plus, obviously the actual pressures and time expected of people during a pandemic. This has all shrunken that 10-year period in realistic ways. And the guy was basically saying, do not fear the safety of the vaccine when it's released. By the time it's released, all of the scientists will have looked at it. They'll have looked at the data. They would have raised the red flag if it had red flags that needed to be raised. But that time frame that we know of is what happens in the normal world when half of your lab is working on other diseases and half of the world has got factories devoted to other things. This is a specific circumstance with infinite resources and global focus. Don't be afraid of the vaccine just because of the time frame.
Right. Well, that's comforting. But also
logical, I think.
Yes, but and I'm willing to be talked out of this. Wouldn't it take a while to really fully understand the side effects of a drug?
Potentially. I'm no immunologist at all, but I think that in certain respects, the way that they are designing vaccines, they're building on a foundational knowledge about how certain proteins and stuff work, or certain vaccine types work from previous vaccines and knowledge. So their expectations about where to look and what kind of side effects might be are probably already focused. And I don't know necessarily that it takes 10 years to see a side effect to a vaccine. Sure. I think you might, again, this is completely unverified.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that either it causes problems almost straight away or it fails in a way that's identifiable. Like, okay, now we try and give you the COVID and you get the COVID. But I'm not sure that, people are going to, 10 years on, discover they have tumors because this thing did this thing,
Sure. Yeah. It just occurred to me it's a little hypocritical of me to question this as someone who
did
has
medical
done
experiments.
Clinical drug trials for cash. I mean, I've literally accepted $150 and said, Doc, whatever you gotta do, stick it in me as long as I get that sweet cash.
Let me drop my pants and you get to work.
And it all worked out fine, except I got this kind of twitch. But,
And you can levitate.
Let's give me a... Yeah, I can read minds.
So, isn't this going to be a weird takeaway to merge our two threads? Isn't it going to be weird if Trump leaves office and his most significant achievement, genuinely, is the fast track program which funded vaccine research, which legitimately resulted in, like, the Pfizer vaccine?
Operation Warp Speed. But he's claiming that Pfizer and Moderna held off announcing that they had a successful drug in their hands until after the election.
Yeah.
Do you reckon there's any validity to that?
I don't.
You wouldn't think so, would
I
you?
don't know.
I mean,
I suppose it's possible.
It kind of sucks for Trump that if that is his one, good thing that he's done, that it was announced after everyone voted. But it's also just really funny. So
yeah, but again, if you're weighing the scales of Trump COVID response, maybe inadvertently funding a program which produced a vaccine, sure, that's on the good side of the scale. Literally not giving a fuck for 11 months as it runs rampant and kills 250,000 Americans is probably still weighing that scale down for a lot of voters.
Yeah. Also, I have a massive objection to the name Operation Warp Speed. I mean, what are you doing?
What do you
Turn
want?
off the TV. You're not fucking
It's not
in a
Star
space
Trek.
movie. It is not a movie. Don't call it Operation Warp Speed. Call it Operation fucking Falcon or something. That'd be cool.
Ooh,
It's a bit subtle, you know. Falcons
Captain
are fast.
Falcon.
But don't call it Operation Warp Speed.
It's such
Cowboys.
a literal name, isn't it? It's like calling it Operation Let's Get a Vaccine Fast. Like, it's just show a little bit more like panache, please.
Yeah. Yeah, Operation Really Fast. Losers.
Yeah.
But it's such a Trump. Such a Trump thing to name.
Do you
it.
think he named it?
No, but his Goonies did.
Yeah.
He's got too many Goonies.
Too many
that are-
Goonies.
Do you like this one, Donald? Operation what? I love it. I love it. Operation Hyperdrive. Perfect. Fuck. That was the next one on the list.
Yeah, Operation Top Gun. The vaccine, to go back around, like you asked if I'd take it, due to the nature of my exposure risk, the first people in every country to get it will be frontline workers, people working in hospitals, people, in public spaces, that kind of thing.
And podcasters.
And podcasters comes next. So, by the time it comes to New Zealand, and I imagine that it's a fairly easy rollout over here, given that, we're in a pretty good position. When it comes to be generally publicly accessible, there will have been literally millions of people around the world who've already had it. And the other thing is you need multiple jabs, by the sounds of it. So you need 2 doses. By that time, again, due to that rollout period, I think people will have had those second doses already by the time it comes near. So at that point, if there's no international news scandals about it, then I've got no hesitation in taking it.
So do people know the timeline? Are we talking like March, April next year?
They were saying that some of the earliest frontline responses, I think these are all from the deep recesses of my brain, but I think they said they try to have 20 million. I think they said they wanted to have 20 million doses by the end of the year, and then more rolling out into January, February next year.
Right. And then who decides where that goes? Is it just like the highest bidder? Because like fucking India is... I mean, no one talks about India. You don't hear in India in the news, but they are fucked.
Yeah, they've got a big problem as well.
Who's giving it to India? I mean, presumably they're not. I mean, are they a big economy? They are.
Well, I
they?
think they are. Yeah, for sure. But I think the US government already pre-signed a contract, or part of the Warp Speed thing is that they get early access. They get the beta software release. They get the access into the club where they get to skip the queue as part of this funding program. So I think a lot of those initial doses will go to the US, and then maybe they...
That doesn't seem right, does it? I don't know. Just like the richest countries get the vaccine. I mean, it makes sense in one sense, but it also doesn't seem fair.
Well, the crazy thing about it as well is that these drug companies who got public money to make the vaccine will get paid for the vaccines. So they'll make a profit off selling this thing as well, even though the public paid for it. It's still that kind of capitalist nightmare of literally our taxes created this and we still have to pay you for it.
Oh yeah, we literally have to suck Big Pharma's dick right now.
That's quite homophobic. What's wrong with sucking dicks, Michael?
No, I like sucking a dick, but if you... Wait, what did I just say? I didn't mean to say that.
Sorry, you let your inside thoughts go out.
I got on the defensive real quick.
I love sucking dick, and I refuse you What did I just say?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Is it homophobic? I mean, it's not. I mean, if it's homophobic, it's heterophobic as well to women. It's sexist.
It's.
I'm not just a homophobe. I'm a sexist.
I'm also
too.
sexist.
Don't forget.
If you've enjoyed this kind of thing, you know what? No, I don't want to do the R. I always start with the R, and I find it really annoying.
What's the R?
If you've enjoyed today, if you like this, that just doesn't give you.
How about this? Do you want me to give you a beat and then you rap and then you do it in the beat? Was that going to be too hard?
It's going to be hard with a lag, I think. I'm sorry. What I'll do is I'll just speak with diction and precisely.
Rap it without a beat.
I'm not a very good rapper. Maybe next episode. If you've enjoyed this show, I'm so grateful to hear it. Thank you for telling me. If you go to Apple Podcasts and tell other people there, then maybe they'll come and listen to our show as well. And I think we can all enjoy and appreciate that. This show can be found on various social media platforms. You can go to Twitter and get notifications when a new episode goes up. You can go to Facebook and just learn information and see interesting news articles and join a community of parsnip lovers who will never be satisfied with the past snip content that we post. And there are places to go on SoundCloud to listen to our jingles. Coming up to Christmas season, go and add us to your favorites. You can write us an email and send in questions and thoughts like my dad did this week. Thanks, Dad. deepford@gmail.com. And if you want to follow us visually, the Instagram exists as well. It's a smorgasbord of options for you, and we appreciate your presence in all of them. End rap.
You kind of lost time a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to rap.
Yeah, that was good. Good outro, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, cheers. I really felt like I picked up some speed in the middle. I was confident with what I was saying, and I felt like I was in the zone. Some weeks it's a little bit hard, but I just kept my mind in the game, and I warmed up beforehand, and sometimes it just goes your way. The cards fall as they do. This is how Nick and I usually chat. Yeah. After the podcast ends, so a little behind the scenes action right there. It's kind of like when you see the football players sitting at the media table after the game, and people say, "How do you think you went?" Oh, I felt like there was way more to that. No, that was the comparison in a nutshell. Right. You got some. Sorry, I didn't realize you were about to do it. It's my most known quality. That's your way of telling me to shut up right now. I'm about to do a thing. I feel like it has been... Sorry, let me just close all this bullshit. All this fucking bullshit. Such a good Boston accent. Boston accent. That's what people from Boston say. Look at my Boston accent. Look at that pot car. That's a character guy who thinks he can do a Boston accent, but it's just way off. Has never been to or really investigated Boston before. Guy who's got some of the elements. He's heard of it like friend of a friend, but it's like still not processing it well enough. Yeah. A very complex guy. Very complex guy. It's got layers. Alrighty, it's been a while since we checked in with this guy, so I think, given the state of 2020, it's time for some George Clooney news. Oh, I forgot about George Clooney. George Clooney news.
Watch out for that tree.
Yes, we actually, when you on my end, that actually synced perfectly. So that was great.
I went
Yeah.
and then I hesitated again so I could catch up with the lag.
Yeah, it's perfect. George Clooney news. If you haven't encountered George Clooney,
George Clooney.
then you probably want this explanation. What we do is we just look for what George Clooney's been up to. And boy, do I have a story. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Fuck it. Let's just get on with it, okay? My Kahlua with milk's kicking in, and I'm in the zone.
The Kahlua zone.
Here, so there is a big GQ profile on George Clooney. Links in the chapter notes if you want to go read it.
I heard about this.
It's very enjoyable.
He throws shade at Russell Crowe.
Love it. A whole bunch of interesting little tidbits. You can find out why he hasn't been acting recently, because he's really just a family guy and he's enjoying being at home.
He's been supporting his wife.
And then towards the end of the interview comes this nugget. The interviewer says, "We have heard that you gave away $14 million to your friends." And he demurs as to whether or not to answer it, and then eventually gives in and talks through the story. So I just want to read to you an excerpt of this GQ interview about the time that George Clooney gave away $14 million.
I am genuinely interested in this.
Yeah. So, he sets the scene. Amal and I had just met, but we weren't dating at all. I was a single guy. All of us were aging. I was 52 or something. And most of my friends are older than me. This was 2013. Gravity was just about to come out. And because they didn't want to pay us, they gave us percentages of the movie because they thought it was going to be a flop. And that ended up being a very good deal. So he had some money. But not interestingly as much as he has now, because he sold his tequila company for like $1 billion. But in 2013, he didn't have a family or any real idea or hope that someday he would. He wasn't even dating Amal. And he thought, what I do have are these guys, his friends, who over a period of 35 years helped me in one way or another. I've slept on their couches when I was broke. They loaned me money when I was broke. They helped me when I needed help over the years, and I helped them over the years. We're all good friends. And I thought, without them, I don't have any of this. And we're all really close, and I just thought, basically, if I get hit by a bus, they're all in the will, so why the fuck am I waiting to get hit by a bus? And so he decided to get his hands on $14 million in cash and give it to them in cash in suitcases. What? Because if you're going to give people $1 million, you want to fucking do it in a suitcase, don't you? Definitely. So he did some research. He found that in downtown LA, in an undisclosed location, there's a place you can go that has giant pallets of cash. Clooney got an old beat up van that said florist on it, like he was in a heist movie. And he drove downtown and got in an elevator with the florist van and took the van down to the vault and loaded it up with cash. He told no one but his assistant and a couple of security guys that were shitting themselves. And then they brought it up in the van. He bought 14 Toomey bags, which I guess are those kind of Ziploc carry bag things. And he packed in $1 million cash, which he tells us helpfully isn't as much as you think it is weight-wise, into these bags. And then the next day, he had all his friends come over, and he just held up a map and pointed to all the places he got to go in the world and the things he got to see because of them, and said, how do you repay people like that? And then I said, oh, well, how about $1 million? And then he just gave his 14 friends $1 million each in cash. Isn't that
all they're
all there? They all just got given a bag with $1 million in it.
That is,
isn't that
bizarre.
Bizarre, but also like such an opportune, like kind of blessed life, but sort of weird.
Here's the thing I don't get about
indulgent.
the old Cluntang is that he's got so many of these stories. Like, he sounds so bored as a young man. Like,
sorry, did you just call him the Cluntang?
I called him Cluntang, not the Cluntang. He's got so many of these, like, I was actually watching, I think it might have been a GQ run YouTube thing where George Clooney breaks down his most iconic roles. So I was actually watching a Clooney thing yesterday. But he's got so many of these stories where he's like pranking Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, and it's just like always just pranking each other. And it's so hilarious, and they're like pranking each other with like Italian tabloids where they're printing shit that Brad Pitt has said. Like, I don't know. He just sounds. Before he met his wife, he just sounds like he had so much time on his hands. Like, these elaborate pranks and these like, part of me doesn't believe it. Like, it surprises me that you said he's like kind of reluctant to talk about the time he gave each of his friends $1 million in a suitcase. But surely like the reason why he's doing it like that is so he can have the story to tell. Like, it's not just like, I mean, if you want to give your friends that have helped you out over the years $1 million, just fucking transfer it. Don't make it harder.
Well, I don't know. Maybe there's some tax reason where if you transfer it, then you like lose a bunch to tax. I don't know. I can sort of see. I take your point that it feels like a story that begs to be told, and it is a good story.
Right.
But I think you just interpret it a little bit more like he's a storyteller, right? He's an actor/director.
Sure.
He's thinking about things in a narrative spectacle kind of sense. If you're a movie lover, a movie buff, he's literally Danny Ocean. Like, how's the way you're going to give money to your friends? Fucking get it in cash and give it to them in a bag, right? Like, that's more fun than just opening your bank account and discovering an extra $1 million in there, right?
I think that's true, and I'm being a little too critical there of him, or a little bit too cynical, because just thinking about my own life, like I appreciate. I mean, you and I do it. I mean, we do this Christmas song. The best moments about life as you get older are the putting in maximum effort into things that don't deserve maximum effort, and that's where the biggest joys are, don't you think?
Yeah, it's the things that you do because you want to, right? It's like it's
the
not
overkill for no reason other than just, I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, it's things that you're only doing for yourself, right? Like,
and
that's
and to have a laugh with the other people.
Exactly.
Involved.
Yeah. I mean, everyone does things for other people. Okay, that's going to come off more cynical than I intended it to, but like, when you do things for other people, there's also something you're getting from it yourself, right? And so one of those aspects, even if you're being altruistic, can also be, what's the way that I'm going to enjoy this most as well, right? And I think his approach, particularly as he said, he was 52 and he didn't have a family and never expected to have one. He's just him and his boys. You know, the weird thing about it is actually that he is a more believable millionaire than like Trump is. Like, at least Clooney seems to enjoy it, you know? Trump is probably richer than Trump. Clooney is probably richer than Trump ever was. But he's certainly enjoying it more than Trump ever did.
Yeah, you're probably right there. I just thought of another Clooney name, Hakuna Matata.
Oh,
that's a good one, isn't it?
That's quite good.
But yeah, you're right, and who doesn't want to have like one of those stories? I mean, it's a cool story. Like, you think about, for one of those friends that were gifted $1 million. I mean, they get to say George Clooney gave me $1 million in cash out of a florist van. I mean,
yeah,
their grandkids will tell that story.
Yeah, well, probably not, because how many like famous movie stars of my grandparents' era do we talk about?
I mean, well, yeah, probably right.
Well, I suppose Orson Welles gave my granddad $1 million. You know, it could work.
Well, that you'd expect that money to still be in the family at
Yeah.
some. But that was a good Clooney news, man. Like I reckon that was my favorite Clooney news.
Oh, thank you. Not even the one where Clooney used his Nescafe money to buy a satellite which spied over like Syrian war zones.
No, that was my favorite Clooney. This is a hot number 2.
The hot number 2.
Yeah.
That's just like my Friday night.
That's what Emma calls me.
I feel like we need a better joke. Is there any way that we can can we be
How
funnier?
fucking dare you, dude?
Can we be funnier? Can we try and be funnier just again?
I literally thought before I said that this will be the closer. This is true.
So explain
explain
the joke to me then. What hot number 2 in what way?
I said, I mean,
Like you're a piece of shit? Is it like a toilet related number 2 joke?
No, it's like just a backhanded compliment. You're my hot number 2.
As in number 2 is in like your second in command.
No, second in preference.
Second in preference.
That's where I was going.
As
I mean,
in-
now you're making me explain it, which is
Well, yeah, I
disgusting
know
of
that this
you.
part isn't funny. I'm just trying to understand it so I can retroactively assess if it was good or
Yes, but with every question, you're killing the laughter.
not. Well, I don't know if it needs to be funny anymore. It wasn't then.